Okay, folks, my name is John Lohman. I am the publisher of the Corridor Business Journal. I want to welcome you to our first ever webinar. I am broadcasting from my basement in North Liberty, and as many of you know, we host a lot of events at the Corridor Business Journal. But all of the events up until this time have been in person. And so with the coronavirus pandemic impacting everybody, and it's impacting our business model like lots of other business models, we are trying new things and trying to evolve. And one of them is this webinar series. And the goal is to keep people connected and informed. And we will be hosting 2 webinars each week, each Tuesday at 12 noon and Thursday at 12 noon. Coming up this Thursday, we're fortunate to have Dr. Tim Sagers from Mercy Medical Center. He will be talking about how we can help employees and family members who are particularly stressed out at this time, and those folks that are feeling particularly isolated as well. And Dr. Sagers is as an expert, he's great, and we're fortunate to have him coming up on Thursday. But we thought we would start this series with really the basics, because what do we need to be thinking about to do telebusiness? And we're obviously on Zoom today, and so there's some other features out there that people can tap into. So the first person I called to help me understand the technology was Kim Lehrman. Kim Lehrman is the CEO of CEC, and she got us connected with Randy Montelius with CEC. Randy is the Vice President of Technology, and I'm going to turn it over to him in just a second, and then he is going to give us a little bit of a presentation. And then if any of you have any questions at all for Randy or for me, you can type those in the chat section of the Zoom teleconferencing feature. And I think we are struggling with Facebook Live today, so we might not be up and going on Facebook Live, but we will be recording this and it will be available on our website. And so again, this is our first foray into webinars, and so we're appreciating all of you participating with us, and hopefully there won't be any kinks. And I will now turn it over to Randy, and I'll be jumping in on occasion to ask him a few questions. So Randy, thank you for being with us today, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity. As you stated, my name is Randy Montelius. I'm with Communications Engineering Company, also known as CEC. I'm the Vice President of Technology here, and so what that position entails is I oversee the technology offerings for our company. Now at CEC, we're a company that covers the Midwest. We've got just shy of 300 employees, and we've always been in the technology space. Now, one of those technologies that we specialize in is AV systems. And typically we're working on those. It's boardrooms, it's huddle spaces, it's collaboration systems, things such as that. But we also work with a lot of video conferencing type systems and web conferencing type systems that integrate into those systems. So that's kind of a little bit about us. And so with that, I'd like to jump into that subject a little deeper. Now, certainly the telebusiness, or what I like to call telebusiness, is it's a pathway that we've been going on for a while. Businesses have had remote workers, and so they've always been juggling various ways to allow people to stay engaged in their meetings, whether they're traveling in the car, whether they're working from home, whether they're working at a Starbucks. That's always been the case. And we've been slowly migrating toward that with better and better tools, better and better systems. Now, one thing that's happened though, obviously with recent events, that progression has really speeded up. As a matter of fact, it's accelerated quite a bit to where now your entire workforce may be working from home and remote, essentially. Well, that presents a number of problems as I see it. First of all, the work from home concept may be new to a lot of your employees, especially if their primary work role was office bound. They may have equipment and systems that they really are not portable. They can't get at remotely, things such as that. So those are some of the things that we're having to overcome with the remote worker. The other thing that you might find is that companies with smaller IT staffs, they may not have the ability to support that remote workforce in that fashion. They also might not have the infrastructure that will support it as well. So as I break down the problem a little farther, if you look at the individual that works from home, the big challenge for them is going to be, how do I set up my virtual workspace? How do I get that area in my home where I can be the most productive? And certainly I think there's several things that come in. Certainly there's, what part of the house? Where can I find that space? Do I have the right equipment to support me and so I can be productive in that environment? And do I have the connection, connectivity to be able to connect back to my workspace and have a good experience? So if you dive into some of those things, let's talk about the space a little bit. The one thing that you would need to think about is privacy. Now, personally, me, if I'm working from home, I would want to have my own space, somewhere where I could go that I could, leave the area where I could feel like I'm at work. Now, that may be meant generational because a lot of people, they're used to working at Starbucks. They can work anywhere. They can work on their couch. They can work from the dining room table. And so certainly that's an option. So the thing there is we want to make sure that you've got an area where we can be productive. That's the main thing. And one of the things that we did, and let me just share here, just to try and make some fun to it. You should be able to see my screen. One of the things we did, since we knew we had a large workforce that was going to work from home, they're going to really invade their home. They might have other people at home. So we invited them to share. We wanted to make a fun exercise out of it. We wanted to see their home setup. And as you can see, you've got all kinds of different setups. Some more elaborate. Some look like a dining room table. There's a picture of the family pet in one of those pictures. So we had a little fun with it. So that was kind of cool, I thought. So there's that. The other thing that to consider is the background. When you're setting up your workspace, you want to think about, you're taking a work and you're inviting it into your home, which is typically private. So you want to consider things that are in the back room, or excuse me, in the background and all around you. Whether you've got kids and you're on an important meeting, can you isolate them? If you've got pets that you need to attend to, maybe you've got tigers or exotic animals in the house. So you never know what you might find, but you got to consider those things. So always consider what's in the background. One of the things that you can do, and there's some tools, and I'll advance here, is there are some features that some of these systems have that allow you to build in some privacy. And for instance, like Teams, which is a popular platform that Microsoft provides, allows you to blur the background, and that's on the lower left there. I've got an example. And if you turn on that feature, you can still kind of see what's going on in the background. It's just blurred, so you can't really make out what those things are. Zoom, on the other hand, can go a little bit farther. Zoom takes the approach of actually replacing the background, and there's typically some choices. Some of them are, animated background. I know there's a palm tree, and it's swaying in the breeze. Makes you feel like you're on vacation when you're in that meeting, right? So there's that. The other thing that you have to consider besides the space itself is the equipment, which I spoke to. One of the things we did as an organization, we knew that we had certain individuals that had very large format monitors because they did CAD work. They may have specialty PCs because of the type of work that they do. We allowed them to check out some of their technology and take it home for their home setup, because we wanted them to be as productive as possible in that home environment. One of the other things then too, along the equipment line is, the audio. And in my opinion, audio is the most important element in terms of the video conferencing. Truthfully, you can do without video if you need to, but the audio makes the experience. So there's some things that you can do, whether you're using a speakerphone or a headset. I personally like the headset. I think it provides the best audio quality, and most of them have noise canceling microphones today, which will help reduce some of the background noise and things such as that. And in
Hey,
this
Randy,
one, yeah,
Randy,
absolutely.
it's John. Just want to jump in here for a second.
Sure,
Hey,
sure.
so what are you using right now as far as microphone, and are you through a laptop or are you through a dedicated camera?
So great question. So I today, and you may see it behind me, I'm in our lab 46 at the office. So I came into work today. There's not too many people here, maybe 5 people in the whole organization, since we're all working from home. But I wanted to use this space. Our lab 46 is our technology lab, where we showcase all of our different technologies, and we'll do proof of concepts for customers and things such as that. But within this space, we've got very good quality AV equipment. So right now, I've got a microphone array above my head that has multiple microphones, because it's made to pick up a large group of about 12 to 15 people and make them sound very good. So it's got a lot of technology behind it. So I wanted to utilize that. The other thing that I'm utilizing is a very high quality video camera that's fixed mounted to the wall, and I've got it configured to where it's zoomed in on me and providing good quality video. So that's that. So yeah, getting a good setup as it relates to audio, I think is one of the key things. Now, you may not have the need or ability to set up the type of camera I've got that I'm using today, but at home, there's still some very good choices. As a matter of fact, one of the choices I prefer is to have a fixed camera. I know a lot of people are probably using their laptop, and there's a camera now in just about every laptop, but it's probably not the greatest quality. It's also not fixed. So if you've ever been on a video conference and somebody's got their laptop sitting in their lap, as they move around even a little bit, they're kind of moving in the scene. I prefer, if you've got the ability, to have a fixed camera. That way you don't have so much motion. Plus you can get a better quality unit to tie into the system. So that's the video portion of it. And then the other thing that's very important is lighting. So from a lighting standpoint, if you've got a little desk lamp or whatever, put it in front of you so it lights up your face and isn't behind you. As a matter of fact, if you've got a window and it's behind you and the sun shining in, it can cause a backlighting effect, and it can make your face look darker and not provide much definition. It can really mess with the view. So as a matter of fact, I believe that the right setup in terms of lighting can do more than a good quality camera can, because you could add a good quality camera, but if you've got the wrong lighting setup, all you're doing is broadcasting, high quality video of a poor lighting setup. All right, so there's that. The other thing then, besides that to consider, is your connectivity. Now, I went out to Zoom because it's a popular web conferencing system, and I pulled some data off of their support site. And the main thing to understand here is, depending on the type of call and the quality of video you're sending, will determine how much bandwidth that you need. And now this is their recommended amount of bandwidth. And it goes from very little in the upper left-hand corner, which would be an audio-only call, which really takes very little. We're talking, 80 kilobits per second. And even if you decide to do an audio call and share your screen for like a PowerPoint, again, very little. It's a still image that you're sharing. not much impact on your home network or your home internet connection. However, as you start to go up in video quality, what Zoom calls high quality video, 720 HD video, and then 1080 HD video, you can see that it ramps up pretty quickly. So down in that lower right-hand corner, you're looking at needing 3 meg up and down, approximately. And so depending what kind of an internet connection you've got at home, you may have 100 megabit internet connection. But when it's touted that way, a couple things. First off, you rarely get, what your internet service providers advertise for speed. And then secondly, residential systems are typically configured with a lot more downward bandwidth than upward. So even though you may have 100 megabit downward, you may have only 10 upward. And as you can see, that's still enough, as long as you're not contending with your children who might be watching Netflix or other workers at home. As you can see, you could run into some congestion. As a matter of fact, one of the things, if you are running into some congestion, one of the things you can do is lower your video quality or shut off your video and make it an audio call. So that's some things, I guess, tips to overcome those things should they occur. So, all right. So let me just, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Okay, I should be back with you now. And I guess to talk a little bit more then about organizationally, what are the organizations? How does it affect them? Well, I think it affects an organization in a number of ways. It affects them in terms of access. How do I provide access to all my employees? And then have I selected a standard video conferencing platform? And then what do I do about phones? So let's touch on each of those just a little bit. So when it comes to access, most organizations, they've got servers, and on those servers, they've got files. Those files may be secure. Typically, they're accessed within the organization and maybe not remotely. You also may have some critical business applications, whether it's an ERP system, things such as that may run on-premise servers. Well, someone's going to need access to that. So as your workers start to work remotely, you need a secure way for them to connect, because they're connecting across a public internet service provider network. And typically the way most organizations would accomplish that is through a VPN. And so VPN is a virtual private network. It's a way of sheltering or sending all of your data traffic through a secure link. They call it tunneling. And so even across that public network, it makes it so that outsiders cannot access that information and get at it. So most organizations have some type of a setup like that. But now that we've moved to this, you may have a setup, but is it capable of supporting the number of workers that you're going to be, accessing your network remotely? Things to consider. Okay. CEC, we do offer some VPN from a couple different providers, and something that, if needed, we're certainly available to.
Randy,
yeah,
sorry to jump in.
Sure.
It's John here. Just curious about, is that something that like IMON or MediaCom or South Slope would offer a business if they're getting their internet through them, or do we have to go through a kind of a third party like CEC for something like that?
I'm sure that IMON and those types of providers do offer some level of VPN, and typically VPN, is associated with a firewall. And so the systems we have, because at CEC we work with mostly medium and large organizations, and some, I guess some smaller, but we've got products that cater to that. But there's a lot of, home office based firewalls that can give you some VPN access. I think when it comes into play where you're supporting a large number of employees, you're probably going to look beyond your ISP and look to a company that probably specializes in that a little more, because there's a lot more to it in terms of that, in terms of understanding the bandwidth requirements for all those to connect, as well as the security that you want to put in place.
Okay. Randy, one other question from the audience. It says, what about remote login? Is that secure? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so if I understand the question right, there is a number of systems that I would say remote login where it's more of a remote control type device. As a matter of fact, applications that are really heavy, we would call them thick client applications, if you know it. They'll have like a PC that's local to the organization that accesses those, and there's a lot of horsepower. As a matter of fact, it may take a lot of resources to try and send that across the network. There's products that are might be termed a remote control, like a Citrix or something like that, where from your home desktop, you'd be able to log in and you would actually take control of your on-site PC. And you'd be able to access, and all the horsepower, all the heavy lifting is done between, you know, the machine that you used to work on when you could go to work and your servers that are there local, just as before. You're just connecting remotely, and you're sending, you know, screenshots, or you're sending screen video, and you're sending, you know, keyboard entries back and forth, which is a lot easier to handle and send upstream, a lot less bandwidth. So I'm not sure if that answered the question exactly, but I think that's where we're at. So other areas for organizationally, I think from a web conferencing standard, I think it'd be safe if as an organization you haven't decided on a company standard. I think the time is now to do so. You know, there's a lot of good products out there, you know, Teams, Zooms, WebEx, GoToMeeting. There's some great products out there, and there's many more. Quite frankly, they've all got different programs in terms of licensing. They've all got different feature sets. You need to probably do some research and understand which one's the best for your organization, depending on your needs. I know of two specifically. Teams is a Microsoft product. It's, I would say, their biggest attribute is their native interoperability with Office 365. So you've got that type of connectivity, whether you're accessing SharePoint, some of the Office apps. It's also an IM platform, which a lot of organizations are using. So it's kind of more than that, more than just a web conferencing. I would say it's easy to use, but doesn't have a lot of ability to configure, whereas Zoom is highly configurable, but it also makes it a little bit more complex. It seems like Zoom is very attractive right now and seems to be getting a lot of press in terms of what it is, but that's a very robust product as well. So anyway.
Do you have a standard?
Yes.
Randy, do you have a standard at CEC that you guys have? Or since you
Yes.
have to deal with all different kinds, you have to dabble in and understand them. Can you just talk about that?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. As a matter of fact, I was reading some articles on, you know, comparing one to the other. And one of the conclusions I actually read in one of the articles is that some organizations need both. And the reason, and in fact, we have both. As a matter of fact, because we're a Microsoft organization, and Teams comes inherent with all of our Office 365, it's our IM platform. Everybody has, you know, Microsoft Teams already as part of the organization. And I would say all of our one-to-one meetings, the integration with Outlook, calendars, and all that kind of stuff, that all happens via Teams now. But there's a limit to what we can do with it. And so we do a lot of webinars where we'll present on a subject, but we may have, you know, 300 people attend. And so that's a different type of scale and a different type of product. And that's where we look to Zoom. So we've got a package with Zoom that has licenses, not for our entire organization, but for a good number of people that use it in that fashion, that will do webinars. And so, you know, we use a lot of the features of that. I'm on Zoom right now, which you provided the link. But as you can see behind me, I've got a virtual background that's logoed for Lab 46 that I'm in, and also for CEC. So that's some of the features that we wanted as part of that. So we're both. We're an organization that uses both. Okay. And then the kind of the last area of an organization, I think, is phones. And phones kind of the unforgotten element maybe. But, you know, phone calls are coming back in style, I recently read. So as a matter of fact, I called my daughter the other day and she actually answered the phone. So that's a good thing. That doesn't happen always. But yeah, so phones. So as an organization, though, if you think about it, the phones in your organization, people are dialing each other using a 4-digit extension, okay? So once you move them to their home, they can't do that anymore. And so are you prepared? Are you, you know, does everybody have their cell phones published, or are you doing a situation, do they know how to forward their internal calls to their home cell phone? And so that's one way to go about it. Now you're picking up your cell phone, you're still dialing that familiar 4-digit extension, but it may be forwarded to the other person's cell phone. Now, that's one way to do it, but inherently that can cause some issues too, because if you think about it, if you're phoning and calling that 4-digit extension, that's really, it's coming into your organization. And then it's being forwarded out. So that phone call between you and your fellow employee just took 2 of your phone lines, one coming in and one going out. So depending on the capacity of your organization, now that you've got everybody working at home, that could provide some constraints. One way around that I would recommend, if you've got the ability to load and use a soft phone, I would definitely do so. Now, a soft phone gives you a number of advantages. It looks like your phone that you're using locally. You've got all of your you know, memorized quick dials, and you can dial by name type thing. But because it's using VoIP technology, it will bypass those phone lines into and out of your organization, and it'll use the network to make that phone call, and you shouldn't have any you know, issues in terms of connectivity. So, all right. So, and that kind of you know, wraps up the things I wanted to touch on. I will say one thing though. I think, you know, this has been a big change for a lot of people out there. And I think after we go through this and people start to get into a groove of working from home, I could see a scenario where not everybody's going to come back to the office. I think we're going to have a shift where a lot more people are going to end up working from home. They'll have decided, you know what, I kind of like this. In some ways I can get more done, and it works for me. And organizationally, I think you're going to see a lot of that too. So there are advantages to working in that type of environment. So, John?
Randy, hey, can you talk a little bit, you mentioned something when you and I talked the other day about Alexa, and I thought that was kind of important to touch on. Can you just mention that again?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for the reminder there. That gets to the privacy in the or in your home office space. So when you get to a home office situation, you may have this feeling of security, but the fact is, if you've got, you know, that Alexa device, Alexa's always listening. It's listening for those keywords. It may not be a person on the other end, you know, depending on who you talk to, but it is listening. So if you're having that secure conference call and you're thinking, okay, this is very secure, no one's listening in, you don't overlook the fact that you may have devices in your home that are actually, you know, listening, okay, to what you're saying. So,
okay.
Point.
So can you talk a little bit about pricing on a few of those items that you talked about earlier? Now, I think CEC offers some of those for sale, I believe. It's not quite your maybe core business, but can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and good point. Now, and at CEC, we mostly do the room systems that tie the businesses to the remote workforce. But the web conferencing, there's, like I say, a lot of good choices out there. Most of them offer that free version, and that free version typically has some limitations. It may have, Zoom has limitations on how long a meeting can go. 40 minutes, which is, you know, just under, you know, most meetings take an hour. So that's probably won't work for a lot of people, but typically, I think the first entry level beyond the free service is around $15 per month per user. And then of course there's different platforms if you want to do those webinars. And those are, I'm unfamiliar, I can't speak to the pricing on those, but there's different tiers on that depending on how many users you want to join in. On the Teams side, Teams is free if you've got Office 365, but there is a level up, which is the E5 license. That adds another $15 per month per user as well. But what that gains you is the ability, when you send out a meeting invite, it has an embedded phone number and passcode with it. And the advantage to that is if you've got a number of people who are attending, and maybe you've got some people who are driving and they can only connect via the telephone, they can still connect by dialing that number and putting in that passcode, and they're connected, and the rest of everybody else may be using computer audio, or maybe using a room and the array microphones. That'll bring it all together. Not everybody has to be on the phone call, or not everybody has to be on computer audio for that to work. Teams will merge that together for you. So that's a handy feature depending on how people are connecting to the meeting.
What about some of that hardware that you were talking about with the actual camera and some of the microphones that people might want to upgrade from their laptop? Can you sell those, and can you talk a little bit about some pricing for those?
Absolutely. So what we've done is we had some of our AV engineers pick their favorite products, and I showed you some pictures of some of them. And so what we've done, we've assembled a work from home kit. Okay, there's 3 different versions of it, whether you want the headset or whether you want the speakerphone. All of the kits involve the fixed camera, and the fixed camera has a privacy shutter, a mechanical one. So you just twist it, it shuts down. It's got a red closure there, so you can see and you're assured that the camera is blocked and shut off. So we've assembled that. The kits range from $300 to $400. And if you want information on that, just shoot me an email. I think there might be something on our website that you can get access to that. We'd be happy to send out information if you're so inclined.
Okay. All right, there's a couple chats, questions, or I think this might just be a statement. It says, using the technology for corporate communication, one to many, many to many is a good Zoom use. Keeping people apprised of their policy with COVID plus new economic issues as an example. And so that was just something from the audience.
Yep, and absolutely. And that's where I think the Zoom product excels, is when you want to do these one to many, because I know you can get licenses for 300, 500 and more, so you can have the remote users dial in and attend. As a matter of fact, one of the things through this process, we've been wanting to make sure that we keep our employees up to speed. So we've been having very frequent webinars, and we've been using the product, and we'll have close to 300 people dial in or connect and join the conference, and we'll present our information. Just like today, they'll post their questions, and we try and get through them all. And we want to make sure we're communicating very well during this time. So.
Okay, another question from the chat is, how does Randy feel about using free services like Google Hangout Meet?
Okay, so, and those are great, and I can't speak to them. I'm mostly focused on the business related applications. I guess the things like that are, and like FaceTime, they're very good probably for those one-on-ones. But if you think about it, they're really geared toward that that non-business user. And so probably some of the features and things like that may be geared toward that. I'm probably speaking a little bit outside my bounds. I just wonder if there might be limitations to try and use that in a business setting. Okay. Just a thought.
We did get a comment here from Bree from South Slope. She says that we do not sell or manage firewalls. This is typically where you would get your VPN service. There are third-party services that you as an end user can subscribe to that are VPN services. They are meant to encrypt your data and protect you while web browsing. And it says it really depends on what exactly they are trying to do. Either way, this is not a service that South Slope offers. So
okay,
thank you
good.
for
Good
that.
to know. Good to know. Yeah.
Well, I think you covered a lot for us, gave us the basics today. And so let me see if there's one more question before okay. Um, I want to thank you so much for taking some time to be with us today, Randy. It really set the table really well for this series talking about telebusiness, and it's something that I think a lot of people are going to be dealing with. And as you kind of mentioned, things have changed quite a bit, and they're probably not going to go back exactly to how they were before. And so, so thank you for participating. Thank you to Kim Lehrman with CEC for getting us connected to Randy. I did want to mention that our next webinar, again, is coming up on Thursday at 12 noon, and that's with Dr. Tim Sagers. He's going to be talking about how leaders and business owners and managers can help stressed out employees and folks that are feeling isolated at this time. And so that's going to be a very compelling webinar on Thursday. You can register for that on our website at corridorbusiness.com. Our next scheduled in-person event is our Innovation Watch event coming up on May 12th. This event explores some of the latest advances in technology. You can, again, go to our website at Corridor Business for more information on that. And just a couple of final comments. If you are one of our faster growing companies in the region, applications for our annual Fastest Growing Companies Awards is coming up on April 17th. So you got a few weeks to apply for that. And then finally, I would say I have got a handful of questions about how people can help the Corridor Business Journal at this time. All attendees will be getting an email from me after this webinar. And I would encourage you to all subscribe to the Corridor Business Journal at this time. If you're not currently a subscriber, that would help us out, and that would also provide some great information and content to you on a weekly basis. So I would encourage you to subscribe to the CBJ, and you can do that via our website. And again, I'll send everybody who attended this webinar a link to that. So thank you again for participating. Again, special thanks to Randy and Kim at CEC for their support and time today, and stay healthy and keep reading the Corridor Business Journal. Thank you.